Ladies and gentlemen, we are launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and launch.
And this is so special to us because it's going to define the way we're going to coordinate our wildlife research in the country. Initially, we used to get to collect information. Everybody was collecting information. There was no coordination. There was no an authority that would actually look at what is being collected. And today, as we launch this, WRTI becomes an authority that is going to collate and collect the information and also work with other partners in the field of research and specifically in the research field of wildlife. We needed an institute and a roadmap that can actually guide us in terms of the information and the data that we are collecting across the country. I think focusing this research on 7 key and priority thematic areas. We're looking at the wildlife population dynamics, the wildlife health, the wildlife bioprospecting, the wildlife and human interactions. We're looking at the wildlife economy, and we're looking at also the genetics of our wildlife.
Father, we thank you for every seat that has been filled here today. I pray for the protection of the wildlife and their habitats. I pray for the wisdom and compassion to make the changes we need to protect their homes. We thank you for this institution. We thank you, Lord, for the universe. We praise you for your creation, for the wonders of space, the beauty of the world, the value of the earth's resource, and the skills of hands and brains. May we thus be true stewards of your bounty to our own inner satisfaction and your greater glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now start the official program.
Our chief guest this afternoon, the Cabinet Secretary, Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. May I welcome you and all the guests that have been able to make it to this another auspicious occasion when the Institute is launching the first ever National Wildlife Research Agenda 2023-2027. Since the Institute started operating as an independent institution on July 1st, 2021, the board and management, with the guidance and support of your office and your staff and the ministry, has achieved significant milestones. I am happy, Madam CS, to report that through the support of KWS, since we started the delinking and operationalization process, the Institute is now fully fledged as a research state corporation with a functional board. We have been categorized by SCAC. We are recognized by NACOSTI as a research entity, and the Technical and Vocational Education and Training Authority, the TVETA, as a TVET institution. We have launched, and I think in this very venue, CS, our 2022-2027 strategic plan that had very key pillars that I think the majority that were present still remember. One was based on coordination. The second one was on partnership. And we had the other one on innovation. And part of the innovation is what you are launching today. We have launched our logo, website, and a brand manual. We have a brand. And through the support of KWS, and I always say this, we've been able to more or less finalize the process of transfer of assets so that we can quantify what is the value of the Institute and what is the value of KWS. They said without that concluded, our finances was okay, our governance was okay, but the only thing was that the asset transfer, they cannot put a value to it. In pursuit of our core mandate, Madam CS, of research and training, the Institute has deployed the resources that the government, for the first time, allocated us to do research and training, and also, together with the external partners present here, undertake 16 research projects that we identified as very priority for the sector. And some of them included assessing the current capacity of closed systems. You know, we have closed system, we have open system, which is the majority of our protected area. And we have closed system like Roma National Park, with the highest population of Rothschild giraffes. They have black rhinos, they have white rhino. It is hosting the only roan antelope that are in this country, numbering less than 30. We've been able to do a biomass assessment to determine the capacity that is required within that reserve, including recommending to management, KWS, to destock some of those giraffes to their former ranges in the community conservancies in Baringo, where this setup has been done. And through that research, the management can now implement the restocking of safer areas. And that has happened in many of the areas, and some are lined up, like assessing the capacity of Moya National Reserve. We've been able to also, since 1997, and together with the Kenya Wildlife Service, undertook the second marine census. Marine census, I think we did that last month, the results of which we'll be releasing during the World Sea Turtle Day, and I think we'll be communicating to you in a short while. We have also been able to undertake hippo census in Lake Naivasha, Lake Nakuru, determine the threats that are driving them, and recommended to management on the actions that need to be done, including the recently concluded Cebu census in Shimba Hills, that again recorded only 31 individuals in the entire country and only found in Shimba. And what we need to address the decline, including a possibility of setting up a Cebu antelope sanctuary down at the coast. In due time and as per our mandate, since our establishment, our scientists have published over 35 papers in peer-reviewed journals, a record number, a number that we could not have done when we were involved in management research, all published in peer-reviewed, and that has given the visibility for the country. And we're in the process of synthesizing the recommendation coming out of those research years to inform the intervention in the national parks, in the county reserves, and in the community conservancies. In regards to training, we are currently doing a training needs assessment for the wildlife sector. The aim of this exercise is to inform the review of our curriculum, to align it to the current and emerging needs, and introduce relevant program for the sector. That exercise is going on, and to many of our stakeholders that are present here, our consultant will be reaching out to you. Please, if we need to introduce environmental impact assessment studies as a short course, we'll do it. We want to introduce GIS, population management, rangeline management. We want to audit the sector and reprioritize our training agenda, the curriculum of which was developed way up in 1985. And the dynamics of the sector is such that you need to think fast and align to new technology, align to many other things. Madam CS, one of the things we are planning in September, and I think you've seen the call, is again another first one, is to have the first wildlife scientific conference, which we plan to host in Naivasha here. Strategically also, to people to know, we have the institute, and it is between 26th to 28th of September. It will be a major event, and we think we'll be able to bring the data for your pilot project of having the National Wildlife Data Portal established in the institute. We want to use that fora to get data from many themes, be it tracking, latest technology, issues of nature-based solutions, range management, that are scattered with everybody into one data portal. And we are looking forward to this conference. And to the scientists here, please send your abstract, please reach out. We want to ensure that the research that Kenya is known for is being used for management and is also guiding policy, so that we do not research corridors until they all disappear. You can research, and researchers are good at that. We are mapping and we are disappearing. So we need to come up with policy statement that will guide UCS from all this work that's been done over the years, so that some decisive action can be done, so that we don't research to extinction. And that is why we have prioritized setting up a national data portal. Cabinet Secretary, the National Wildlife Research Agenda, whose unveiling we are witnessing today, is another great milestone for us. I take this opportunity to thank you, Madam CS, and officers in the ministry, including the Principal Secretary, for the policy guidance during the process of developing the agenda document.
And I'm making these few remarks on behalf of that committee that spearheaded the establishment of the guidelines and also this research agenda that Madam PS is launching today. I recognize and appreciate the important mandate that has been bestowed to the Institute through the Wildlife Act of 2013. This responsibility will ensure provision of knowledge on the status of the country wildlife as one of our most important assets, as well as the quality and the comprehensive wildlife data to inform decision making. Policy formulation and capacity development through training to enhance wildlife conservation and management. This is the first national wildlife research agenda developed by the Institute, which is being launched today. The agenda itself has been developed in order to ensure it is responsive to the needs of the sector. The agenda was developed in a very consultative way. There were various meetings, both virtual and oral, involving staff of the Kenya Wildlife Service, the community and private conservancies, research institutions of higher learning, and non-governmental organizations that work in the sector. The agenda has thematic areas which are interdependent and necessary to meet the needs of the wildlife sector and the challenges that are emerging today. Each thematic area spells out challenges currently being experienced and the overall objective and priority research areas that require in-depth studies for the purpose of providing science-driven information and to guide protection, conservation, and management of the wildlife resource in our country. Cabinet Secretary, allow me briefly to outline the thematic areas that have been collectively agreed. First, the importance of wildlife population dynamics, understanding status and trends is key, and also understanding the habitat and the dynamics and ecological processes that determine whether our populations are growing or not. Thirdly, wildlife genetics and health and forensics. And the overall objective under this thematic area is to ensure that wildlife, livestock, and human health is safeguarded through a One Health approach. And also that patterns of disease transmission, spillover, and spillback are well understood. And that genetic characteristics of our populations are clear. And finally, that protocols, tools, and knowledge and expertise in managing and protecting our wildlife is prioritized. Number 4, an important area on natural resource governance, that human-wildlife interactions continue to be an important aspect in our country. And the overall objective of this thematic area is to ensure that scientific information guides the development of standards, methods, and tools to assess and strengthen resource governance, both at national, county, and community levels. And also to establish the socioeconomic and socio-ecological drivers that influence how wildlife is perceived, how it's managed, and how it's conserved. And then finally, the patterns around human-wildlife conflict and mitigation measures that are necessary. And then 5 is the important topic of bioprospecting. The overall objective of this thematic area is to valorize the country's wildlife resources and associated traditional knowledge for optimized benefits that promote livelihood, conservation, and national development. Number 6 is a very important subject today, the impact of climate change, with the overall objective of this thematic area is to develop early warning systems, wildlife species management, and implement mitigation and adaptation measures that are necessary, and also, more importantly, to pilot nature-based solutions to address the climate change impacts, including the important subject of carbon credit assessment, valuation, and growing and developing carbon credit programs in our country. Finally is the wildlife resource information management. As Director Omondia has outlined, Kenya is already a repository of knowledge. A lot of scientific breakthroughs in wildlife have been developed in this country. However, the committee and also the board recognize the need to better integrate wildlife resources, data management, data collection, data transmission, and more importantly, to ensure the accuracy of the data that's being collected and how it informs biodiversity and the condition of natural resources in our country. On behalf of the board and of the Institute, I wish to thank you, Madam CS, for your exemplary leadership in the wildlife sector. Your initiatives to mainstream the wildlife sector in national priorities demonstrate your passion for the effective development and implementation of wildlife research and training programs for sound management of wildlife conservation in Kenya. Your continued support to the Institute to date has been tremendous and is highly appreciated. We also welcome your guidance, your challenge to us to do better as we go forward in building this young institution. We thank also the staff of this institute, led by Dr. Mondi, who have been consistent and really working hard to deliver, and the support we've received from the Ministry of, the State Department of Wildlife and the staff that are working there. Your effort is well appreciated. Last but not least is to also thank the board of the Institute for the leadership they've provided and the support they have given the Institute in these early days of its life. We therefore look forward to an even stronger collaboration with all our partners in the coming years ahead, especially in implementing this 5-year agenda beginning 2023 all the way to 2027. Thank you very much.
My job, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple. I'm really delighted that we have reached this point of launching this National Wildlife Agenda, because it was a gap, in our research priorities in the country, and we identified it as soon as this board was operationalized, or the Institute was operationalized in July 2020. The first thing we really wanted to do was to have a research agenda. So it is a moment of great pride for the board that this is one of the last duties that we carry out as a board of the Institute. Our term is coming to an end. We were inaugurated here in the Institute about 3 years ago. Our term is coming to an end, and we are really proud of the many, achievements that we have made from operationalizing this institute, a job that looked very difficult. When we got it to delink a whole institute from an existing organization was not a joke, but we got a lot of support. And indeed, KWS, we want to really thank you, as you have been thanked by my colleagues, and we hope that with the leadership of the chairman and the support, we will finish what we started. Our chief guest, you have seen the board, you have met them. These people have really engaged fully. The chairs of all the committees have burnt the midnight oil to ensure that we have the guiding policies that this sector requires. We have all the guidelines or as many guidelines as we were able to put together in the time that we had. And in fact, our last duty was really to develop the guidelines for wildlife research and permitting, which have been a real talking point, sometimes a bit sticky, but we are happy to say that as we come to the end of our term, that area, I think we have now reached the point where we can say that we do have guidelines for research and permitting. So with those few remarks, I want to say that this is a board that is very pleased also with our DG and the staff here, the staff of the Institute. I think they should stand, the ones who are here, so that we give them a hearty clap, because these guys have worked very hard. The staff of the Institute. These guys, remember we had to translocate them from Nairobi to Naivasha. Some of them came kicking and screaming, but now when I look at them, they are looking very healthy. I don't know why they were finding it difficult to translocate. Some I can't recognize now, wana meta sana kwa uso.
We remain seated. I'm very excited to be here this afternoon. Of course, I spend part of my morning in this institute, and I'm so excited to be a guest of honor in this very important meeting and agenda and launch for us as a ministry. Allow me to welcome you also to this great occasion and meeting that we have this afternoon. We gather here today to launch the National Wildlife Agenda 2023 to 2027. And today we stand on the precipice of change, embracing the challenges that have shaped us and tributes that have defined us. It is an honor to address you all, for it is your unwavering dedication and unwavering spirit that have brought the WRTI fraternity here today. Ladies and gentlemen, despite research on wildlife, animals, and their habitats in Kenya having been going on since the establishment of the first protected area, the Nairobi National Park in 1946, it has been uncoordinated with limited access and sharing of data and information. It has often been disconnected from the prevailing needs of wildlife conservation and management in the country. The National Wildlife Research Agenda that I am launching today therefore intends to coordinate wildlife research in the country in order to enhance the provision of scientific, evidence-based information to support wildlife conservation, management, and decision-making, as well as policy formulation, while addressing the present and emerging wildlife conservation and management challenges, not only in Kenya, but also in the globe. The agenda has identified 7 priority thematic areas for wildlife research that will provide an overarching scientific-driven framework to support the implementation of the National Wildlife Strategy 2030, the WRTI Strategic Plan of 2022 to 2027, as well as the KWS Strategic Plan of 2019 to 2024, as well as relevant multilateral environmental agreements, what we call MIAS, and the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act of 2013, which we are in the process of revising. In order for the proposals in the agenda to be effective, it is an imperative that the Institute establishes the National Wildlife Data Portal to facilitate consolidation of wildlife data across the country and its synthesis to inform science-driven decision-making and policy formulation. Ladies and gentlemen, the government has already provided some seed money towards this initiative and welcomes support from partners to realize this goal. Further, the Institute needs to make the permitting of wildlife research facilitative by adopting online platforms. I am informed the agenda was developed in a participatory manner, involving various key stakeholders in the wildlife conservation and management sector. I acknowledge with gratitude the involvement of all relevant stakeholders, most of whom are represented here today, for your support and participation in the development process of this great work. I also wish to thank the Institute's board and management for coordinating seamless this process. The implementation of the research agenda will require strategic partners and stakeholders collaborations to ensure proper stewardship, science-based decision-making, and adaptive management in the wildlife sector. I therefore urge our partners and stakeholders to support its implementation. On its part, the government, through my ministry, will make all efforts to support its implementation. As we all embark upon this new chapter At WRTI, let us remember that the journey is not solely about the destination. It is also about the obstacles we overcome, the lessons we learn, and the connections we forge that truly define our expectations and our experiences. In a world that thrives on division, let us choose empathy, understanding, and collaboration as our guiding principles. By doing so, we will continue to push the boundaries of what is possible at WRTI and create a legacy that resonates with generations to come. Therefore, today I invite you all to join me in celebrating our shared past that with no doubt you've heard those who have spoken before me narrate the challenges and the work that they've taken, our unwavering unity and the future that awaits us. May our steps be guided by purpose, our hearts fueled by passion, and our actions anchored on the unwavering belief that together we can accomplish the extraordinary. Thank you everyone who have played a part in this remarkable journey at the WRTI. Here's the memories we have made and the ones yet to come as we implement the research agenda we've set for ourselves for the next 4 years. Cheers to unity, resilience, and a future that shines brighter than ever before. And before I launch, allow me to speak from my heart. It is my tradition always, for those who know me, when you do so lengthy write-ups, I have my own in my heart. And today, as we gather here in this great occasion, I'm sure those of us who are researchers, those of us who are in this core business, indeed you resonate with this great day and this launch for how important it is. You've heard in my speech narrating since 1946 when we established the first protected area in this nation. Yet, we've never focused on research. I'm so proud to be the minister of WRTI. And not only WRTI, I'm so proud to be a minister that is in charge of wildlife. Because in it today, I'm in this institute launching a guideline, a campus that will guide us in the area of wildlife. And when I sat there, I connected with the Word of God, the Bible, and looked at the two very essential things that God had to culminate and finish with when he was doing his creation. And those were the wildlife, the plants, and the human that we have. And I want for a moment for you to think, why would God do that? Create the bodies of waters, the light. He prepared the world, the planet, for two species, mainly the wildlife and us. But he gave dominance to one of the species, the human. He gave dominance over the plants, over everything that God had prepared, including the wildlife. And that's why today we gather here as a fraternity that has a steward's agenda and responsibility from God himself to take care of wildlife and plants. And in science, that is what they call biodiversity. And they mix us and confuse us with ecology and other terms, and zoology, part of it being actually taking care of the wildlife. Allow me to say also I'm a very proud person, because looking at the Genesis and the creation of God, he placed his importance on two species, the wildlife and the human. And by no chance I have found myself as a minister of both the wildlife and specific WRTI that is going to do research and KWS, but also the Minister of Utalii College, that basically is in the business of raising a population that will take care of your bodies in terms of what you take in. And I realize that I'm really doing exactly what God ordained us to do. Research is our compass. Today, as we launch this guide, it's going to be our compass, it's going to be our instructor, it's going to be our guide. And so we have a path that is defined so clearly by this manual that we are launching today for the first time in this country, and I believe in East Africa. A lot is to be done because I've listened to my fellow and my dear chair and the other chairs, and to an extension my CEO, narrate the lamentations of this institute. But as a reader of Bible, I want to tell you and address the board as well as the management and the staff of this institute and at large my ministry. The time has come that we drop the book of Lamentations and pick on the book of Acts, which is a book of actions. But we will not forget our fast. We will still narrate it under the book of Chronicles. But we are gladly looking forward when all this is done so that we can embrace the book of Solomon, the Songs of Solomon, so that we can dance and rejoice in love. I know those who go to church know what I mean. For long this nation, we are lamenting because of the problems. My brothers, our lamentation will not change the things. It will take us to make a bold move and action so that we can change the situation that is before us. And that's why I'm telling you, drop the book of lamentation. Pick on the book of action. Let's pick action. We are not saying we are going to forget about our past, which if you look at the Bible is the book of Chronicles, narrating what was there before. But we are focusing for a day that we can rejoice in this country and say we've done it in our fashion and in the way we wanted it. And that time we will embrace the Songs of Solomon. As I look and hear your lamentations, I can hear them from the transfer of assets. I can hear them from a museum that needs a lot of rehabilitation, a laboratory, to students' welfare, as well as support for staff housing, to the wider data gathering and management, to habitat restoration, and indeed to climate change mitigation strategies at large. These are lamentations. And indeed, it is lamentations that move us to action. And therefore, let's prepare ourselves for action. Today, as I finalize, I want to address the nation. And I'm addressing the nation because of wildlife. Wildlife is a great heritage that we have in this nation. And I'm so proud because we have over 7,000, and if I'm wrong, let me know, species in this nation. Some that are nowhere else except in Kenya. And this is heritage. I want us to begin seeing this responsibility that we have, this pride and favor that God gave us to take care of wildlife. And that's why today, beyond the responsibility to nurture and manage, God also saw it wise for us to use the wildlife for our benefit. And today, one of the thematic areas that we are focusing is wildlife economy. And I want to take you back to the Bible. He said, it shall be for your food. But to this nation, we know wildlife as heritage. We don't have to kill animals for bush meat because we have enough of cattle and goats and sheep and other plants to feed on. This nation has strategically taken wildlife as our heritage. And therefore our responsibility is to protect, is to nurture, and is to look for other means, apart from killing and taking the meat, other means that we can have more benefit and more money that we can buy this other food that we need. And that's why we talk about wildlife economy. But the final responsibility that we have under heritage is for us one day, and we have begun it even now, to account not only before God, but in this planet. We must account. We have already begun accounting. When we interfered with the ecology and the balance of the planet, we are now experiencing the climate change. And if I ask you who has caused the climate change, among the two species, you know who. It is not the wildlife, it is us, the humans. So we began failing the test that God gave us. And so my brothers and sisters, I ask you that we begin correcting the failed exam that we have failed before we appear before the Maker to account. Today, as I launch this wildlife research agenda, 2023 to 2027, I have listened very well to the chairperson of research narrate the thematic areas that we are focusing on. And in a slow manner, before I take the honor to declare it, allow me to state again, this agenda we are launching today will focus on wildlife species population dynamics. We want as a country to be sure when we talk about this country being the home of the big five, how many are they? How do they roam about? Because we are hearing they roam all the way to Congo and all the way to Zambezi. These are the dynamics. We want also to look at the wildlife habitat dynamics, where they live, the habitats. We know it is deteriorating, and that's why in my ministry, we're going to focus on the restoration of their habitat. We want to focus on their health, on their genetics, on their forensics. Because as we have seen already the other day, I was being told, and I thought we had another giraffe appearing in the globe after a long time, only to be told that it is genes mutation or something, that we have a white giraffe today in Garissa, a mole. So we're saying it is going to focus on the health so that we don't lose them out of zoonotic diseases. We're going to focus on the natural reserve governance. The human, what we call human-wildlife conflict, but we have baptized it to interactions so that we can be, more sensitive to ourselves and to our spirits. And the socio-economics, what we are talking about the wildlife economy. How can we benefit from this wildlife besides the gate fee, besides seeing the cars driving our world in our national parks and national reserves? There's a lot that we can do in this area. And for me, in the larger ministry, I call it product diversification. But under this fourth thematic area, we're looking at a very core and sore and bitter truth of human-wildlife interactions, where we've seen loss of life of either species. And so we will be looking at that. By prospecting as well, climate change and wildlife resource information management or research. It is now my singular honor to declare the Wildlife Research Agenda 2023 to 2027 officially launched. Asanteni sana. Na muko baridi sana.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Kenya yetu hakuna matata, hakuna matata, njia kupendeza, hakuna matata, wanyama wako sawa, hakuna matata, wageni wakaribishwa, hakuna matata, Kenya nchi yetu, hakuna matata, hakuna matata.
Can we give these people a round of applause? Thank you very much, CEOs, for coming. Thank you for sending the representatives.
Jambo bwana, habari gani? Nzuri sana. Wageni wakaribishwa. Kenya yetu hakuna matata. Kenya nchi nzuri, hakuna matata. Wageni wakaribishwa. Hakuna matata. Hakuna matata. Hakuna matata.
Makofi tafadhali, makofi.